Did you watch Bout at the Ballpark this weekend? Because I thought it was a total blast of an event. I had a ball watching Team USA, Oklahoma State, and Iowa compete in a really neat venue. If you want the full recap, I'm going to give that to you, as well as everything else you missed this weekend in D1 wrestling. So let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, your source for college wrestling news and discussion. And on this week's wrestling headlines, starting out the top with Team USA wrestling at Bout at the Ballpark. So this saw a freestyle event taking place right before the Oklahoma State and Iowa duel. And I'll be honest with you, this portion of the event was not as... it was cool to see the Greco-Roman women's freestyle and men's freestyle all competing in such a neat venue, but Team USA was so darn dominant because Team Iran wasn't there, and there was a little bit of a backup plan, an alternate plan, which still was neat, but Team USA outscored their opponents in men's freestyle at least 105-0. There weren't many matches that made it to the second period, but like I said, I still had fun watching it as kind of like the pre-show to Oklahoma State and Iowa, which there were some closer matches between these two teams. Now, I predicted the duel would be 21-12. It ended up 23-9. So there wasn't a ton of unexpected that I thought was going to happen and didn't happen, or anything like crazy pins or anything like that. But I guess something that did happen a little unexpected at the beginning of the duel at 125 was Jesse Ibarra had a close match with Mastro Giovanni. Ibarra's filling in for Ayala at 125, who really knows what's going on with that injury right now, but the match ended up coming down to the final seconds when Mastro won, scored a takedown, a comeback, and ended up winning 6-5, which led into 133, the marquee matchup of the night, Austin DeSanto and Dayton Fix. And these two put on a show, the best match that they've wrestled in college in their series up to this point, highest scoring match. And I saw DeSanto wrestled a bit of a different game plan than he did against Roman Bravo Young. Wasn't really attacking the legs too much. Fix was able to defend a lot and ended up scoring the points on Austin DeSanto, ended up winning 5-3. So we'll see how his game plan shifts as we head into the postseason. And the duel progressed. Ironman won, Murin won, Young won. Whitlake ended up giving Marinelli a battle at 165, but Marinelli, the Bull, came out on top 3-2. At 74, Michael Kemmerer won by a pretty respectable margin, and then flip-flopped at 84 when Dakota Gear earned the last win of the night for the Cowboys, 9-2 over Assad. Warner and Cassiope close out this event in style to give Iowa the win, 23-9. And as you see here, the Iowa wrestlers came onto the mat at the end of the night, and they were having a fun time. I think both teams, and Team USA as well, and the fans just were having a really good time at the event, which I thought was, it was different for the sport, and I thought that it was just really neat, and I'd love to hear what you had to say about the event. Now, one guy who was maybe going to wrestle in the event, but didn't because Team Iran pulled out, was Gable Steveson. Although he didn't wrestle in the Bout at the Ballpark, he did end up coming back to wrestle his final match at Minnesota. He ended up coming out on top with a awesome show. Now, although they wrestled Ohio State, it was Minnesota and Ohio State, it didn't really matter when it came down to Gable Steveson. The match was over at that point. Ohio State had clinched the duel, and they ended up winning 24-14, but Gable was still convinced that he had to put on a show, and he sure did. He tacked Tate Orndorff in 4 minutes. And let's put this into perspective. Orndorff is an All-American, placed 8th last year, got onto the podium, and Gable was out here just scoring takedowns on him like it's nobody's business. Gable at this point in the season, I don't know but if you know this, but he's pretty much dominating. Is 10-0, 6 major decisions, 3 techs, and a fall, and he ended the night with his signature backflip, which we didn't think we would ever be seeing again, because he said at the beginning of the year that it was retired, but fans were excited when he did crescendo the night with his backflip to send him out in style. And that moves us on to the big dual meet weekend. There were some other dual meets besides Minnesota and Ohio State and Oklahoma State and Iowa that you may have missed, and they were still quite the exciting duels, including Iowa State and UNI, who Iowa State won 16-15. Coming back, they were down 15-9. And it came down to the last two bouts with Younger Bastida, who, let me just show you, like, he ended up scoring 10 takedowns in this bout, ended up earning the major decision over UNI, but he's going to be trouble in the postseason with how dominant he is wrestling. He is just somebody who I think is bound to knock off somebody on the big stage, and that sent it to 285 pounds. Sam Schuler ended up earning the victory at heavyweight over Carter Isley 3-1 to secure the duel for his team and ended up moving Iowa State into a 12-match winning streak, and that actually ended up earning Sam Schuler the Defensope Wrestler of the Week. That's right, Defensope is a new sponsor with Fanco Wrestling. You'll be seeing more of them on this channel. I'm excited to welcome them as a sponsor of Fanco Wrestling, and as they present this Wrestler of the Week this week, which is Sam Schuler. This duel for Iowa State now sends them to potentially win the Big 12, but they have an upcoming duel against Mizzou this Wednesday night that will decide the Big 12, which I'm excited to see what the heck happens there. And then we get to the SoCon. I know, not a ton of SoCon news all the time, but App State and Campbell, these two teams are one of the, like, some of the fiercest rivals in all of college wrestling. Now, App State ended up winning the SoCon and ended up beating Campbell 19-13. It was a battle between two undefeated SoCon teams. And Campbell had won the last 3 dual meets and the last 3 SoCon regular season championships. And, of course, we know that there's the regular season championship, and then there's the postseason championship, right? And so there are 2 championships that now it's really going to come down to the tournament, and I'm excited to see because it could flip-flop because these 2 teams are so darn fierce. But, like, man, App State came in swinging. And to be fair, like, you know, I have a lot of a Penn State bias. I'm a Penn State grad. I worked at Campbell for a few years, so I also have a lot of Campbell bias. I'm not an App State fan in the slightest. And they brought it. They really did bring it. It was at home. And I liked everything about this duel as far as the wrestling was concerned. I voiced some concerns because I thought the commentary was just atrocious. You know, if you want to host a duel meet, at least make the commentary a bit neutral. You don't have to know everything about the other team, but make it a bit neutral. I just wasn't a fan of this. But I'll say this, okay? The marquee matchup of the night was at 149. John Milner, and Josh Heil. 3-2 was the final score of that duel meet, and these two put on quite the entertaining wrestling match. Josh Heil scored a takedown, but then Milner ended up riding out Heil in the 3rd period. Man, he is tough on top, is Milner, and it was number 4 Milner, number 6 Heil. Like, this is one of the biggest matches that has ever happened in the SoCon, and it was huge. And these are 2 guys who are contending to be All-Americans. Milner, All-American last year, but Heil for the first time this year contending to be an All-American. And these 2 put on quite the battle, and they're probably going to wrestle again in a couple weeks. Came down to the final match was this duel at 125 pounds when App State ended up winning 19-13. And like I said, it's going to be a fun one come SoCon championships. And that leads us to the last dual meet, last big one over the weekend. The Sun Devils dropped to Mizzou 19-14. And really no crazy upsets. It was just a straight up win on Mizzou's part. Like, really was. This was highlighted, though, at 165 pounds by quite the match between Keegan O'Toole and Anthony Valencia. And there's been a lot happening at 165 this year. But right now, so to set the stage a bit, O'Toole was up in this match at one point. Valencia started mounting a comeback come the 3rd period. It's tied up, and they are neutral. O'Toole ended up locking up a cradle, pinning Valencia in the 3rd period, midway through the 3rd period, in his signature move, and this hyped up the crowd and hyped him up for the postseason for sure. He's 16-0, undefeated on the season, a top dog at 165. Now, Valencia is still, he was mounting a comeback, just like he was against Shane Griffith as well. And if that's one thing I'm excited for, it's definitely the Pac-12 championships at 165 pounds, because you got Wick, Valencia, Griffith just in a couple weeks. The conference championships are right around the corner. So if you're not subscribed to Fanco Wrestling to be updated with the latest wrestling news, hit that subscribe button below. And if you're interested in another wrestling video, I recommend that you check this one out right here. What did you think this weekend of all the wrestling headlines? I thought it was another fun weekend in college wrestling, and I can't wait to see what's upcoming this last weekend.